In the 7 o'clock hour, we'll work in the game with the commercials and halftime, all of it, plus overreact gyms at 7:02. How about for our Lions, John? How far away are the Lions from doing what Seattle just did?
That's a tough question because there's some unknowns. If Brian Branch is able to go in the first 6 weeks of the season, if Kirby Joseph is able to play at all, that changes the equation. That speeds up the process. But having said that, there's obviously depth at those positions that you need to create. The biggest thing for me is you're going to have to find a way to apply pressure by bringing four. That was the key for Seattle in that game. Now, that was one way of doing things. It doesn't have to be the only way, but you're going to have to be able to stop the run with the front four and your linebackers, the front seven, but you're going to have to be able to apply pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and it can't be 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds into a play. That, to me, is the biggest factor of what the Lions have to get to. So, to answer your question, they could do it next year if they're willing to go out there and replace DJ Reader. He's a free agent. He's not going to be there. And I know Ali McNeil is there. Tyleek Williams is there. So you have to get that third component inside. And it's not just bringing back Roy Lopez. I would love for Roy Lopez to be back. But it's doing something. Al-Quadin Muhammad, and I don't want people to get lost on that, well, he had double-digit sacks. You have to have somebody over there that can be a 3-down guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's won countless teams Super Bowls. I mean, the year before, the Eagles were able to win up front with their front four and won a Super Bowl. The Giants, multiple Super Bowls with a front that dominates. It's the quickest path to the quarterback, and it lets you play coverage on the back end, which with a lot of these good quarterbacks, you need the extra defenders out there. If you have to blitz, you're going to be chasing your tail. And I thought Seattle creatively mixed in some corner blitzes, right? Witherspoon, their best coverage guy, maybe caught him off guard, sent him a couple times. But, John, their D-line was the story of that game, and it unlocks a lot of what they want to do on defense. They can play nickel because they've got a D-line that consistently wins up front. How far away are the Lions? Well, Seattle was 60-1 to win the Super Bowl and just did it with Sam Darnold. Detroit's a year away. It's got to be the right offseason, but Detroit's a year away. Next season, they could be in that game. I don't believe they're so far off that's not possible.
And they need to address the offensive line, but the offense isn't the issue. And I'll say this, and I'll say this all offseason. The 25 offense was nothing like 24 and 23 because they couldn't run the ball like that, which also meant they weren't able to use play action like they used before. But they were still a top 5 offense. They could score points, over 28 points per game. Top 5 in the NFL. Offense isn't the biggest issue. It's the defense.
So then, look, the obvious get right offensively with the offensive line so you can convert those 3rd and 4th downs, so you can have the football, so you can finish in the red zone, so Goff gets play action pass. All that's noted. They have made no changes to the defensive coaching staff. A little disappointed in that, given that we've seen this defensive revolution in the NFL. I know Dan's an offensive guy, loves his offense, always puts the blame on the offense. John, I need to see follow through on the defense. And I think that's their path. You've laid it out.
I think it's more on the personnel. You got to have the Jimmies and Joes, or the X's and O's don't really matter. And yeah, you can put some smoke and mirrors and you can get a couple of wins. What did we see against Tampa? It was a defensive backfield that no one knew who anyone was because everybody was either suspended or injured.
Yeah.
But that can work for a game or two. Yeah, but where X's and O's, hey, they go win you a game, but you've got to have the personnel. So to me, it's more on, like you said, the offseason. It's Brad Holmes. What are you going to do to address the deficiencies in personnel?
It's both. I mean, on offense, it's also personnel, right? It's not just we brought in Drew Petzing. If they don't beef up the O-line, Petzing can design the greatest play ever. If Goff's getting his guard in his lap 2 seconds into the play, it doesn't matter. So, of course, I'm not trying to dispel the idea that they need upgraded personnel on both lines of scrimmage. But the fact that only one coaching staff has seen an outside influence, I think it's a mistake. I think they should bring someone in to help this defensive coaching staff along with, sure, the priority is having better guys who win one-on-one because every coach looks good when your D linemen win one-on-one.
They do. And I mean, good coaches good players make good coaches.
Yes. How far away are the Lions to you guys? You just watched the Super Bowl. The idea that the Lions would be in that football game. How far away? 248-539-9797. Both in years and in moves. I think they're could be next year, but the moves that need to be made, it's pretty obvious what Seattle did. DeMarcus Lawrence was a player they added last offseason. If you added DeMarcus Lawrence, does that change your defensive line?
Yes.
So, I mean, again, there are moves to be made, but Brad Holmes can't approach the offseason with, I'm going to use my available cap space, what precious cap space I'm able to create with restructures and cuts. I can't simply just roll that into a Gibbs extension, a Campbell extension, a Laporta extension. If you just run back the same team.
Well, and I don't want everybody to get lost because I'm sure the text that you just got.
Yeah.
Probably one of them says, go get Max Crosby.
There it is, bottom of the screen. There it is.
I could predict that right away. Okay. We would all love that. That's the easiest answer. But you've got to find a way to get him under the cap because he's not going to take a pay cut. And you can restructure a bunch of guys to try and get him under, but then you're going to be deficient in other positions like the secondary or like the offensive line.
Trade J-Mo and 2 firsts for Max Crosby.
Oh, okay. Yes. Fine. I would make that trade. I just don't know that it's possible to be able to fit Max Crosby and his contract into the salary cap.
I also want to stress to people, when Max Crosby comes up, and he's come up before, he's not the only way to address the D-line. Of course, he is at the top of the list in terms of impact, but even when we had Brad Holmes on, I was trying to get it through to him. No, I'm not asking you simply about adding one other elite player across from Aiden. How about someone who's a 3-down, quality, effective player who can both rush the passer and stop the run? Now, those guys don't come cheap. That's why you're paid the big bucks to be the GM, but it's not Crosby or bust. It's do something or you're going to watch like us last night.
The more realistic, but I'm cautious to say this because I don't want to send people into, Jansen said this. Trey Hendrickson is a free agent. That's more realistic than going and trading for Max Crosby. But he had an injury-riddled season last year, which doesn't mean he can't still play. Maybe it means you're going to get him at a cheaper price, but what's that cheap price? Is it still $25, $30 million a year? Because somebody out there will be willing to pay him that. Is he worth that anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the question.
That's going to be the analysis of, because for Brad Holmes, it's not just going out and adding personnel that you've got to be able to do your homework and be able to add personnel through trades, through free agency, and that's just something we haven't seen him do.
Right. I also think a key here, too, is they've put eggs in the interior. Those guys have to pan out. Aleem has to bounce back from his ACL. It's a non-negotiable. If he comes back and he's a limited player for what they're paying him, for the snaps that he's going to play, they're in trouble. If Tyleik Williams, who they used a first-round pick, not a second or a third, a first-round pick, has to be a 3-down disruptor. If those guys don't pan out, you're going to be swimming upstream. Tex says our defense, when healthy, is just not good enough right now. And Tex says that no QB coach combo after year 5 have ever won a Super Bowl if they didn't already. The Lions have 0 chance. Is this next year 5?
This was 5.
This was 5. Well, I guess Lions are done. Cancel football for the foreseeable future.
And no defensive play caller had ever won a Super Bowl until he did.
You know what it's time for? Time to get a mobile quarterback.
Stop it.
You see Sam Darnold take off and pick up a first down.
You're just rolling that grenade in here, aren't you? Thanks.
We'll get to Jamar and Westland next. No, we'll get Overreaction 702. Want to hear more from Lions fans. How far away are they from doing what Seattle just did? It's 97.1.